Requests can be made from anywhere from $500 up to $5,000. And the purpose is really to increase community and organizational sustainability and resilience, and to break it down, allow the arts to survive, continue, and thrive. Create a sense of belonging in place, so really give people an opportunity to interact and connect. Advance community and public health, so keep people safe and healthy. Document this unprecedented moment in our history, so really help us learn from our situation in the through the arts, and promote community dialogue. So really keeping efforts that are grassroots, democratic, and empowering, through arts programming and initiatives, really help fuel those. We do have four objectives with this program. Miriam, if you wouldn't mind sharing the guidelines on your screen. Um, so at the address that I put in the chat box, this is where the guidelines are, and I'd like to call your attention to the left-hand side of the screen. So currently, this is for projects that are occurring now. But we do ask that if you are going to apply for this opportunity, that you do so 30 days in advance of the start date of your activity. So if you are planning something that's starting in 2 weeks, or tomorrow, we're not going to be able to process a grant that quickly. So make sure that when you submit an application, it is at least 30 days prior to when your activities are going to begin. um, You'll also see this apply now link, and that takes you to our Flux system, is what we call it. It's our grants management system. If you're not currently receiving Tennessee Arts Commission funding, you will have to register first, and then within a day, usually 24 hours, you'll get an email that gives you a login and password to the system, and then you can start your application. You can see here's the eligible applicants, and then the funding request. So that's kind of a cliff notes of the program, but um, the objectives that really have to be addressed in the application are right up front. So you can see applications are encouraged that invest in arts and cultural assets to enhance everyday life for all Tennesseans, foster innovation and excellence, accelerate transformation in rural areas through the nonprofit and creative sector, and then strengthen community vibrancy through cross-sector and public-private partnerships with the arts. These One of those objectives has to be clearly identified in your application. And for the fourth, I'm sorry, the second objective, foster innovation and excellence, um, that is really only open to you if you're an arts organization. So if you're a social service organization, you'll want to focus on 1, 3, or 4 of the objectives. And Miriam, if you don't mind hitting the drop down box for description, um, that's going to really give you a much more robust description than I'm giving you of the objectives and what they mean. So Um, what I'll say right now, though, is that this program, much like the Arts Build Communities program that Miriam runs for Hamilton County, is a very expansive set of objectives. So we're not looking to exclude a bunch of people. We're looking to make sure that we're covering the gamut of what can be done virtually or safely during this extraordinary time. So you will want to look over those objectives carefully. If you go down to contact, that drop down box, you'll see that there's a lot of Tennessee Arts Commission program directors listed. I'm one of them. I'm not the only one who's working on this program. If you're a visual arts person, you're going to want to talk to Krishna Adams, or if you're really working on something that is more performance arts related, you'll want to talk to Jared Morrison. Just take a look and see who your program person is, and know that we're available by phone, we're available by email, and we are happy to discuss with you program ideas and what might be possible for your organization. Um, Also, I want to point out that this program, like some of the emergency changes that we've allowed to other grants, is one that can be spent on like audio visual equipment that's needed for virtual programming. This is We are, really looking at what is will make things really uh, interactive for your communities. What will really create an opportunity for artists to be paid. So just know that if there's a question about whether an expense is eligible or not, um, call us and let us know. But I'll let equipment that is really, audiovisual or computer related is allowed, and that would be under supplies if you do apply. Same thing would be true of royalties as well. If you're doing online programming and you're really, you know, um, working with artists and their copyrighted material, then just know that those expenses are allowed as well. Um, and finally, um, uh, uh, excuse me, Miriam, if you don't mind showing the evaluation criteria. Um, this this is something you do want to pay attention to. Um, that these are basically, what we're going to be looking for any application that you submit. If if we don't, understand how this benefits the public, one of the program directors is going to send back your application and ask you to explain that further. If we don't understand how this is a response to COVID-19, the same thing is going to happen. We're not going to disqualify your application unless it's clearly not eligible. Something An example would be, okay, your organization, you're doing a fundraiser that is limited to a small group of people and not open to the public. We're not going to fund that. Anything that discriminates, we're not going to fund that. Anything that is really not um, addressing the pandemic, is not in any way trying to maintain a safe environment for constituents, those won't be eligible. But you'll see that the criteria is pretty clear cut, and also um, emphasizing that when you look at matching requirements, Miriam, if you don't mind hitting that drop down, um, it's pretty clear cut. There's no match. Unlike our other grants, there's no match. So if if you're on the fence about whether you should apply, um, you know, this is this should not be an obstacle. Now, what I will say though is that this is a reimbursement grant, and unlike if you receive a project grant or operating support, we will not be able to make a advance payment. Um, so you will have to execute the project with your own funds and then seek reimbursement through the closeout, you know, when you send your final evaluation. Um, Real quickly, I mean, I know I'm going through a lot of information. Um, you'll see that there are more detailed information in all of these drop downs, but just pay attention to, you know, really those how to apply and requirements, and you know what in if any kinds of support materials you'll need to provide, which include staff bios or contracts with artists if you're working with an artist. Um, Now, I don't want to be a talking head, which I actually have been now for a little bit of time. So I'm going to go to questions because I see that there is one from Samantha Teeter. Um, if we pay for extra recording streaming rights for composers who are not located in Tennessee, but our musicians are performing that composer's work, is that eligible? Yes, that is eligible as an expense, yes. And you would just need to detail that in your application, because I would assume that you are wanting to pay your artists who are local and performing, but also for the rights. You just need to make sure that we understand what all the request includes. If once you get into the application, you're going to see that it's a fairly simple budget. There are only 4 types of expenses that um, you can put in. But if there are multiple lines or multiple expenses that are included in a category, you're going to need to detail those so that we understand what it's for. I see funding for strategic planning can be included. Can you elaborate? Yes, because we are very aware that you're limited in what you can do right now. Um, if your organization really needs to reframe because you know COVID-19 has really thrown you for a loop and is preventing your organization from carrying out its mission, um, this is a way to really, you know, make sure that you're, you know, you have a public facing mission and strategies that will work. So if you need to bring in a consultant to help with strategic planning, that would be one expense. If you know there is, if you're really you know struggling with how to put together public meetings because again you don't have um, equipment that will allow you to do public programming virtually, that would be obviously an eligible expense. Um, so it would really depend on what your needs were, but if you know it is a matter of really going through the process and having the expertise to, make sure that your organization is poised for a better future. That's certainly an eligible project. Um, any other questions that anyone has about this opportunity?
Well, I think we don't have any other questions. But Shannon, thanks so much for joining us and for providing that great information about this grant program. And I hope everyone on this call and other people in our community will apply for this grant program. And we did plug the link to your website on here. So please feel free to grab that and check out the information. And Shannon, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And it's finally great to see you in person. I've talked to you on the phone, but I've never seen your face before.
It's good to see you, Miriam. And we will see each other soon.
Yes. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Next, I'd like to welcome our second set of speakers, and we'll be having Leah Kimbrough of the Innovation District of Chattanooga and Erica Roberts with Velvet Poetry, and they're going to be sharing a virtual demonstration of their new resiliency checklist. Leah, are you able to screen share and as well as Erica?
I think it'll just be me. Let me see. I think I can.
Okay, great.
Yeah, everyone sees that. Awesome. Thank you so much, Miriam. And thank you, Artsville, for doing these calls. They've been so great. I've tried to make it to as many as I can, and each time I come, it's like great information. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But like you said, I'm Leah Kimbrough. I'm the Events and Outreach Manager for the Enterprise Center. And if you're not familiar with the Enterprise Center, we do a lot of work in the community to support economic development as well as entrepreneurship. And so during the pandemic, we noticed that a lot of small businesses and owners and nonprofits, unfortunately, was not able to. Sorry, my daughter is like in the background. We're not able to. They missed the opportunity to receive fundings for PPP because they didn't have like the permanent information or documents to be able to apply for the grant. So in light of this, we wanted to create a list to make sure that it's easier to gather your information for whatever you need to stay prepared for anything that may happen. Some of the things on this list will make it easier to apply for PPP, of course, but even other programs or grants like we just saw with the arts grant. But today I'm going to go through with the list. I'm going to go through the list with a friend of mine, Erica Roberts. She's a friend also, but she's also a local creative in the community. Erica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Erica Roberts. I am a poet and local poet and creative strategist, just all around creative and deep lover of the arts. Hey, good morning everybody.
And we've done a lot of projects together and I just love her so much. I like, what better person to put on my program than her? And plus this checklist is a growing, it's ever evolving. So the part of this call is to see what's on here that creatives need or what's missing from this checklist that we need to add on there to include creatives, make sure that they have what they need to stay resilient as well. But before we get started, just a few things I wanted to point out. With this checklist, it is mobile friendly, so you can use it on your phone. You can also save as you go. And if you leave, you leave the website, which is resiliencychecklist.org, you can come back to it and start, it'll save all your information. It also comes in English and Spanish with one click. So that's easy enough. And then before you get started with your checklist, there's 3 simple questions that you'll start off asking that will prompt you to get to your list. So we'll get started. So I'm going to take Erica through this list as if she was doing it herself, just so you guys can see the process. So your first question is, what best describes your business?
For profit.
For profit, of course, we all want money. Do you have employees on your payroll?
No, technically no.
Technically no.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. And do you operate in one or more of these sectors?
I have done engagements in education in schools.
You have? Awesome. We'll do the education and schools.
Yeah.
But for now, I think with your situation, Erica, because you are creative and you go into many different sectors, this really, I mean, you've been in education, but really none of it applies because you've done so much in different sectors. So we're going to do
Right.
none of these apply. Awesome. So when you first get into the list, a few things I want to point out in here is how, as I mentioned before, you can always come back in here and change your answers, or you can start over if you want. And you can also print this out if you want to have it tangible. And the first part of this, the checklist, will give you a lot of information that you'll need for your PPP loans when you want to start applying for that, which is open until March 31st. But Eric, I'm going to pass through the first section of the PPP.
Yep.
And you let me know where you would like to start your checklist.
Okay, keep going. Keep going. Establish a relationship with a lawyer or a law firm.
Awesome. And why is this important for you as a creative?
So as a creative, I look at it as what am I trying to protect? And for me, it's my intellectual property, it's my writing, it's my creative engagement tools that I may have created, so that's the first thing, how to protect that product. But then second, when I'm working with other orgs or other people or other groups, then you want a protection of your funds or how you're going to work. So contracts are important. And I have noticed over the last couple of years that getting some contracts have been super easy to navigate, but then there's some that I've been like, I don't know about that part. And so needing an attorney to help move through it and make sure that I'm not like totally, missing the point. And that's not in a bad way, but it's also when you understand your contract better, then you know what is expected of you, and what's expected from them. So it helps you, ultimately, it helps you be a better artist or, a better steward of what you're doing. And it's been most helpful for me to, to be able to contact a lawyer friend of mine and like, hey, take a peek. I don't know. And then also helping me create my own contracts has been really helpful in that respect. Because if I work with someone that, if I'm doing like a contract and I'm hiring someone to work with me, then I want to, have something that's legal and it's sound. So having a good relationship, a working relationship with a lawyer or attorney is really helpful in those respects for a creative.
Definitely, I definitely agree. And with this checklist, it tells you need to have one just for those purposes, as you just said, and it also gives you links. So, how do I find a lawyer? It'll take you to the Chattanooga Bar, where you can go through and find a lawyer there. Or if you just have a question or something, or you need legal advice, it's also a link for free advising from the Tennessee Small Business Development Center. So it also sends you to that link as well. Perfect. So we're going to continue going down this list and you just let me know. So once that's done, you check that off and we'll keep going.
And so Leah, when I'm actually in this checklist, I can check those off. And like you said, I can print it off later
Yes.
Okay.
You could check it, and every time you check on something, if you need to uncheck it, you could uncheck it if you really didn't finish that.
Mm-hmm.
Or once you check it and you leave this site and come back, those marks will still be there. It'll still be checked off like you've done it, it's done. Don't worry about coming back to it.
Okay, cool. The next one is really important to me as a creative.
Yeah.
Anchor,
Yes.
Having a relationship and it should be kind of important to, all artists, everyone, in general, but specifically me talking as a creative, it's important because of how sometimes we're paid, how we're and it's very easy if you don't have a setup, which I had to learn this the hard way over the last couple of years of making sure I had a reputable bank, and then also a reputable bank that knew me, that knew my, what I actually did in some respects, because of how we get paid. W-9, larger amounts at times, otherwise they start to look at you suspicious or look at you weird, so, so having a relationship, I've learned especially over this last year, I've learned, just because with COVID, many banks are not open, like lobbies weren't. So it was weird at one point, not knowing everyone in the bank or not having a relationship with them, beyond my account. So it made things a little bit weird. And so I recommend that. But also too, it also helps you, I guess, also with like when you're ready to file taxes, even.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
Yes. And then like, unfortunately, we don't have any links as far as like getting your banks. We feel like you need to establish that relationship, but it is on here to let you know that that is something that's very important to have already established, so you won't have to develop one in the middle of a crisis.
Right. And I think also it helps like that particular having a relationship with the bank can help a creative know the difference between like which banking institutions are best
Yeah.
for your art or for you even, and like getting paid, the difference between PayPaling, the difference between like even though a lot of us use PayPal online, would you say that that's an actual like bank? If I have like a really deep problem, I need a relationship with a local bank that I can actually walk into, or at least beat on the window during COVID,
Right.
and ask questions that I need. But like PayPal is not going to be like that. It is quick, and as an artist early on, you wanted quick money. You wanted like, okay, yeah, give me my money on, PayPal me, Cash App me. But now I feel a little bit different, and wanting to use bank better.
No, exactly.
So I
Exactly.
think it goes in that way.
Exactly. So we're gonna continue to scroll.
All of these are really good. All the points on here are all good for, I think, everyone that's an artist, but there are some that are more particular, that point out toward creatives.
Yeah,
Such
when I was on here, would you say that creating an online payment, like donation platform, is very important?
Yeah, I think, and I'm always icky about the donation part because it depends on like why, I've always been funny about like why you donate, why would I want you to donate? It would have to be something that I'm donating also like but that brings the point of having like a social media presence, right? I mean,
True.
so
And
like
yeah,
that
with all these social media platforms, you're gonna need that password manager.
exactly. I was going to say that too. So like, and people think, and you wonder why would you need to have all of those, your password information or manager or whatever? Well, you know, um, as a artist or creative, there may be a point where you get really, really, really successful. We hope we put that in the universe. We hope that you get really, 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 so successful that you may need some assistance with with your content. And so having those information, having your passwords all set up, having, if you have a donation button or if you have a button that actually clicks to bring people to you, making sure that that's banned, somebody can actually answer that, I think is important. And that goes along with you creating that social presence. I personally had a website at the beginning. I had a website in 2019. And then in 2020, my whole that website was about poetry. It was about gigs. It was about it was that. But when pandemic happened, my artistic life switched a tad bit. Poetry was still a strong, intricate part, and that's never going to change. But I also began marketing like my creativity, and
You're
so
a business.
that
You
web.
are a business.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say became a real like a business, like your name, your brand, like
Yep.
that's
And the website didn't. You couldn't go to the website to see what creative engagements at that point. You couldn't. It
mhm.
didn't make sense. So I had to reevaluate that, which I'm still now. I'm looking at it now, and I want it to be right. I want it to, and I also want to make space on the website for the next level of growth, whatever that evolution comes back. Being able to put the both on the same website, which is the engagement and the poetry and the activities that I can create with the two. But
Yeah.
originally in 2019, that's not what the website looked like. It was just, a really pretty picture of me on stage, how you can contact me, stuff like that. It was decent, but and it fit what it needed to fit for the time. But again, I call COVID the pause and pandemic the pause. That pause made me have to reevaluate. And so that website was no longer serving me the way that I needed it to. And so it had to be trash. It had to
And
go.
that's a good segue into like the next checkpoint on this online assets part is registering yourself on Google. Because your site, if you put yourself as a creative on Google with your website, I know it's like it wasn't the best website, but it's still you can get yourself some reviews on Google if you sign yourself up as a business.
And this, like this was something that was kind of new to me until until I saw this. And so I've been thinking long and hard how I can use that to help me. Because you
Exactly.
can get reviews, you can people can find you.
Mm-hmm.
It can link them to your social media. So and also how many people look at Google, right? Like people
Right.
go to Google before they go to a doctor, right? So like that's like the thing, right? So
So true. And so this next section, so as you can see, as we're going down this checklist, it's all like sectioned off. We just did a section on partners, the importance of partners and having a relationship. We just talked about online assets, and now we're into important records and developing your business plan. Um, and so this checklist really is, like I said, it's still evolving, but it's just telling you the basics of what you need to stay thriving and to stay in the market when crisis like this comes and you have to think quick on your feet and get your things in a line. Um, so one last thing I wanted to point out, Erica, and you let me know.
I think we were going to touch on records.
Yes, 'cause I feel
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah. It's like collect and like
yes,
financial. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Um, and the reason that I thought that that was important for everyone, but creatives specifically, is because we gotta pay taxes. OMG. And I think 2020, I worked a lot W-9. I worked a whole lot W-9. And so I've had to I've worked W-9, of course, over the years, but 2020 was a ridiculous amount. And so filing those taxes, I have to file those. I'm just now getting all of them together, but it was a lot, like keeping stuff in order. Some of this stuff I was like, oh no, I forgot I did do that. But having to put all those in order, I cannot imagine if I was, if I had have not been writing some of them down as I was going. I kept like a working list of which ones would be W-9s, which I should be looking for in the mail or digitally or whatever. And then that means also finding, a really good tax professional or someone, an accountant or someone that can help you suss that through. I mean, because I know that I don't want to tackle these by myself. But keeping up with those records also help you. For me, they help me know, okay, so this is what I made for the year. And it helps me in a different way, it helps me set goals for the next rotation, the next year. But it also shows, okay, so how can I better invest? Which parts of these can I invest more? It just gives you a better overall picture if you're keeping up with that. And also you're behaving like a business, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so this checklist, as we're going towards the bottom of it, I just wanted to highlight that this could not be done without our partnership. We've partnered with TSBDC, Compania, SCORE, CoLab, Venture Forward, all these places, all those local places that have helped us put this together, and they can still help you too. Like, this checklist is not the end all be all. There's resources out there to help you, and we want to highlight that and make sure you guys know that is there for you. So thank you, Erica. Thank you so much.
I
I don't know
appreciate
if I
you.
can the chat or anything, but if you guys have any questions.
I appreciate you, Leah, for including me. I thank you guys for remembering the creatives, because it's hard out here. It's hard.
Of course. I'll stop sharing. And thank you guys. Thank you, Miriam.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both for being on here and walking us through. One question I guess I would like to ask is, because we have a broad arts community, so we have a mixture of individual artists, which Erica, you were giving us that perspective, as well as organizations. And if you could just highlight like a couple specific things, maybe that organizations can find helpful in the checklist.
Yes. And I have my associate Mary Helen on here too, who's helping me with the Q&A portion, because it's
I think too, when you and Eric, hi, I'm Mary Helen Montgomery. I work with Leah. She just mentioned me, but when Leah was going through with Erica, this came out specifically for Erica's needs. One of the questions that they answered no to was, do you have employees? If you wanted, you could go back and go through and check that you do have employees, and there'll be some additional checklist items in terms of records that you need to keep about having employees. So that would probably be helpful for an organization.
Right.
because one thing that I don't think popped on is payroll. There's something about payroll. If you checked employees, they have a thing where you keep employees' payroll in order, and something else. But yeah, I think that's like Mary Helen said. Once you put the yes part, it'll bring up other options.
And I also wanted to clarify too, when we started, the question was, do you have employees? And there was a difference. And I think it's not just me, but there are creatives that may have answers that may differ, or answers that may be peculiar to them when that question is asked. And for me, it was a question in the fact that I did shows in 2019 that I hired artists to perform, right? But they weren't necessarily payroll. They were just contractors. So I think creatives have that question a lot, like, okay, so am I paying taxes for, you have to figure that out, suss that out a little differently when you're creative, as opposed to like an organization, even though you're behaving as one and you're rolling as one. And for me, that was it was a point of, I had to think long and hard, and then pay attention to what the other questions on the checklist were pulling out. And then it made me go back to the other questions before and make them make sense. No employees because they're contractors. It made it make sense. So just a word for like some of the creatives that might pull it up and think, oh, well, it doesn't apply to me because I don't have employees. Well, or that I do have employees.
Thank you so much for answering that question. Are there any other questions that you all have for our lovely presenters? Well, I guess I have one more question. If people are going through this checklist and they have those kinds of specific questions as far as like, where to funnel through, are they able to contact you all and ask you to help them go through it?
Yes, there is a contact. It's an email though. I think it's at the bottom. Yeah, it's at the bottom of the checklist. I share the
Okay,
grant.
do you mind plugging it into the chat box as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right.
And,
Well,
and
if there
just to add to, even if you don't have a question, if you just have feedback about the tool, we'd still love to hear from you, because we do want to keep changing it to really meet the community's needs. So please get in touch with us.
Please.
Great. Thank you so much. So before we wrap it up, I'd like to open up the floor if anyone has any special announcements of upcoming programs or any resources that they would like to share. Please feel free to unmute yourself and come on and share. And also feel free to use the chat box to plug in any website links or event links as well.
Hello, I will go first if that's okay. I'm Jennifer from the Chattery, and it is cold in my house, so I'm wearing a beanie. If you don't know what the Chattery is, we're a nonprofit here in Chattanooga, and we do classes for adults and all kinds of stuff. And we are launching in March a Jumpstart series, which we're partnering with Arts Build for and AVA and Arts Forward, and then it's from funds from Tennessee Arts Commission. So it is a free series for artists and arts organizations, and it is a ton of classes. I'm going to put the link in the chat. It's a ton of classes on everything from bookkeeping to marketing to, we're going to have a few lawyers share trademark and copyright Q&A. We've got literally everything you can think of. And if something is missing, tell us. But so we're still working on fleshing out April. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. It's a lot of classes that we offer usually at a cost, but they're free for anybody that's an artist or arts organization. And we just would love to see you there. If you can't make them all, we are recording every single session. So you can always go back and reference them. And I think that's the big part of it. But again, if you see something, if you go, wait, I'd love a panel on how to get in a gallery, which is actually something we're working on. But if you see something missing, feel free to please tell us, because this is for you. And yeah, I think that's all. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. Okay. Cool.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Yeah.
And we'll be bringing you back on next month to talk a little bit more about this as well in detail. Does anyone have any other announcements that they would like to share with us before we wrap up? No? Nothing exciting happening? Okay. Well, I'll make one more Arts Build announcement, which is that our Artist Works grant program is, the deadline for the second round is next Friday. So if you haven't already taken a look at the application or submitted, or you're thinking about it, or you've started an application and you haven't gotten around to it, which there are a lot of those, I encourage you to get on that, and you can visit artsbuild.com and visit our grants portal and find out more information. And as usual, please feel free to contact me with any questions. And thank you so much for our amazing presenters today that showed us really great resources. We hope you all can take advantage of those and find them helpful and useful. And as always, we are always open to hosting anyone who would like to join as a presenter on these Zoom calls. And we will be sending up a follow-up email with information and a recording of this. And thank you all, and we'll see you next month. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
I've never waved so much. Bye.